This podcast is made possible by Planful.
Hello, this is Chris Greiner here with Zeta Global, and you're listening to the CFO Thought Leader Podcast.
This is episode 832.
The piece that I like about ours is compared to some of the big casinos, you estimated so much. And we even estimated all the way down to EBITDA, but it was just a guess. I love the fact we're very pinpointed here at Edgewood. We're showing direct labor, direct KPIs, specifically hourly, right? We do include salary, but obviously that's a given. That's kind of a fixed cost where our variable cost in labor is pushed out every day, showing the amount of overtime and showing the amount of labor that was in every outlet, all the way down to our snack bar that has a couple of people that run the golf course. So we show all of that labor.
Hi, it's Jack. On today's show, we speak with Aaron Hartwig, CFO of Edgewood Companies. Over the last several decades, when a new casino and resort opens in Las Vegas, there is frequently a mass migration of casino employees from the old venues to the new. Meanwhile, existing venues would lose front desk staff, waiters, blackjack dealers, all to the new venue. No one function would be spared, not even the accounting department, or as Aaron Hartwig tells us, accounting departments were particularly vulnerable, since once upon a time, the greater casino community had pretty much adopted the same AS400 software. New venues that dared consider other platforms would likely confront a shortage of accounting talent. It wasn't until the last decade, Hartwig tells us, when cloud software arrived, that the old green screen software Hartwig first learned lost its grip on the casino industry. We'll hear that story and much more after this. With so much change around us and your need for increasing agility, you have to equip your team to win, and you have to do it now. Join over 1,300 companies of all sizes using Planful to help plan and execute with greater confidence. Planful integrates your critical financial processes to serve the data you need, insights you demand, and the answers necessary to manage your business optimally. Planful lets you plan better, close faster, and report more accurately. And Planful's not just for finance and accounting. It's for the entire business to plan, collaborate, and drive increased financial performance. Take full control of how you administer and manage all of your financial processes and data, and put finance first collaboration at the heart of every decision. When finance is a team sport, you can be a champion. With Planful, you'll be a champion of finance. Get in the game by going to planful.com to learn more. Hello, we're speaking with Aaron Hartwig, CFO of Edgewood Companies. Aaron, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jack.
So, Aaron, we always like to kick off by asking our guests to look back for us. And I had an opportunity to look over your bio, and I know there's quite a few interesting companies and places you've worked. But let's just begin there. If you wouldn't mind, take a look back and try to identify some of those experiences that you feel prepared you to be a CFO in this sector.
Yeah, so going all the way back, my first finance job was in accounting at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. As you know, one of the world's largest hotels, 5,005 rooms at the time. It was an excellent experience in the fact that each job was so defined because it was so big that it was really cool in the aspect I got to do accounts receivable. I did customer analysis, understanding the gaming aspect of it, did casino accounting, hotel accounting, and then suddenly everything came right together. And it was really interesting because you got this little snippet and this little snippet and this little snippet, and you're trying to put all this accounting and schoolwork, and I have a hospitality degree, and you're trying to put this all together, and suddenly it's like, oh, there's everything. And it was really interesting to start there at the MGM Grand.
Now you got a degree in hospitality, did you say?
I have a degree in hospitality. I went to UNLV and have a hotel administration degree. I did front desk, and the guest service was really difficult. And so I did an internship in accounting at the MGM Grand, and they gave me a job doing accounts receivable at $8.65 an hour. And from there, I just met a couple guys that wanted to be my mentor, and I was grateful to them, still am grateful to them, and was able to learn all these different pieces and move forward. So it was a great learning experience.
So it's almost on the job. You determined, okay, accounting, okay, finance. It sounds like it could have been any number of directions. You were sort of being mentored to move in that direction.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually had a chance once that I could have gone into casino marketing within the gaming, and I decided not to do that and stay in finance because I truly did love it. I do love hospitality. I do love the thought of guests coming to your property on a vacation to enjoy themselves. And I think that's really a cool aspect of things. And that's why I set out to be a hotel major. And then from there, putting the two and two together, I was able to just go through school at the same time of learning all these aspects. Suddenly it all came together for me, and I appreciate everything everybody taught me and showed me along the way.
Do you go up the accounting ranks, or is it? Do you get more involved in some of the financial planning aspects of it as well?
Yeah, so I was able to go into financial planning and analysis later in my career. I did go back and get my MBA to kind of round out that thought process. While I'm not a CPA, I still believe I do all the accounting quite well. But to get that whole thought, I went back and got my MBA. So I traditionally stay in the finance ranks.
Yeah, and I just want to let the listeners know, Aaron goes on and does build his career, remains in casinos and resorts, and continues to climb the ranks. And of course, today he's a CFO, and we'll ask you about Edgewood in a little while. But when you speak to other finance executives along the way as you built your career, what was the intrigue around casinos from them? And again, I'm thinking of executives in other industries when they would meet you maybe at a conference, and they'd learn that, oh wow, you're working for MGM. Now I know hospitality's part of it, and it does intersect the world of entertainment, but casinos are, again, it's such an unusual business. Anything you can share with us?
Yeah, like I started with, I definitely enjoy the hospitality and the thought of people coming to enjoy themselves at your establishment, your property. So I definitely like that. The casino aspect was just so dynamic and so fast paced and day after day. And I got to experience what it was like to work at the MGM Grand when Tyson and Holyfield fought, and Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, and the aftermath of that. And like, there was just so much dynamic around that. I got the chance to work at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas, the Palms in Las Vegas. I mean, the dynamics that go around those, and having the different DJs to the property, and how special some of those nights were just incredible.
Just want to ask you about cash management. In casino life, it would seem to be rather top of mind at all times. But can you share some thinking around that and how that became part of the finance function responsibilities, perhaps?
Yeah, taking away that risk in someone coming in and beating you, which really you factor in anyway. I mean, that risk is over the life of the property. It's not a single point in time. So managing the cash, the critical point is, how much do you develop or redevelop? How much capital is going back into the property, at the same time maintaining that cash balance that you need to really operate effectively, not always skating by and trying to pay this vendor and that vendor a little bit later and playing that whole cash management game. So the real critical thing is to develop, but to develop with a real plan. And that's actually one of the things I really enjoy about Edgewood right now is we're in the development mode and we're developing our resort. And with that, cash management is critical, and we are really conservative with it. And that's been really interesting over the last 3 years joining this team.
Well, we want to find out about Edgewood, but I want to understand better what were the rungs on your ladder. So as you look back, there were certain milestone appointments. Can you recall one for us? How exactly did you advance? What was the big step, perhaps, or a big step?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I had some great mentors at the MGM Grand, and with that, my mentor had went on and went to a different casino, and subsequently a second casino from there. And he calls me. This is probably 3 years after I worked for him, and he says, "Hey, you want to come be my controller?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a great step up. I'm an assistant controller right now." And he goes, "Yeah, come on out. We're going to file bankruptcy." And I'm like, what? So anyway, long story short, I trusted the guy. He's like, "It'll be great for you." And we filed bankruptcy, and we absolutely managed cash to the nuts and the bolts. And I was calling our bank saying, "Where can I get a cashier's check at 6 p.m. to pay the vendor to bring the liquor to the casino the next morning?" But the tremendous amount of experience in the bankruptcy crammed into a year. It was almost as if I had done 3 to 5 years. And the reason why I say that is like, for example, in the year we had 2 gaming audits from Nevada Gaming Control Board. And typically you have that every 2 to 3 years. So in a year we had 2, boom, back to back. And that learning experience was just tremendous. Having all the CPA firms come in and manage your cash with you, filing with the court and everything. That was just a tremendous thing. And I was glad I had my mentor and a good friend that was there with me during it.
Yeah, no, the irony behind it, and we've heard that before, that when you do a bankruptcy, you need accounting talent then more than ever with everything you have to go through. So great insight there for us. I want to mention that you were a finance director for multiple different casinos and resorts, and which would eventually, as you come to Edgewood, the Edgewood companies, you step into the role of the finance leader there. Now, can you let me just ask, first of all, what does Edgewood do? And I know it's in real estate development somewhere in the same corridor, but tell us, what does Edgewood do? What are its offerings really?
Yeah, so I would say the company shifted this last 5 years. We have a golf course that's a top 100 golf course that is right on the shores of Lake Tahoe, in South Lake Tahoe. Tough place to go to work. You have to look at that every day. But with that, we developed a hotel that's 154 rooms. It's a 4-star property. In 2018, it was named the #1 new hotel in America. And so with that, we've started to develop further into the resort hospitality. We do have some real estate. So we actually have 2 leases to casinos. We also have about 500 acres that is long-term developable. We have a really cool property. It's called it's the old Pony Express. It's called the White House. With that property, it was actually the first Pony Express in the area, and Mark Twain actually rode at the house. And so that's owned by the family with that. We also have a water company. And Jack, no jokes, but I'm a dam operator. So we have a dam that we run that holds back some of the water that goes into the whole golf course and whatnot. So yeah, so it's a whole breadth of stuff. We have such a beautiful property. It's amazing to come to.
Now, can you tell us about your arrival there? What are the numbers that would really concern you that you would watch regularly? You come into the office before your first cup of coffee. What are you looking at exactly in this sector?
Yeah, so the hotel was not quite 2 years old when I started. So we're still really in stabilization mode, trying to get there, trying to understand what our market is, trying to understand who our customers are, where our guests are coming from. The golf course is rock solid, so it's already been established back in 1968. So it's rock solid. With that, we have a hotel that we're really trying to understand. So the number one pre-pandemic was all about our labor and trying to understand what labor is. So I implemented right away some KPIs around labor, whether it be some sort of measurement, uh, as simple as overtime, because overtime was a problem for us, or actually getting into the deep dive of productivity and what does that look like per server, per busser, per front desk employee, per valet, whatever that looks like. So I really dove into that right away, and that was a big piece that we needed help coming from casinos and having such massive amount of labor. That was really a great focus right here to look at just hospitality and get that in.
All right. So, what is it that when you first arrive, do you reorganize? Is there a certain hire or two that you make as you look to sort of get the finance function in the shape you want it?
Yeah, not a huge restructure. I would say the number one thing that I implemented that I wholeheartedly believe is we are finance, which underneath me I also have IT and I have purchasing, and many of the CFOs have this similar kind of chain of command. But with that, we're all support. Everything that we need to do needs to support that front desk employee that checks in our guest. The very first impression a guest could have is them checking in, coming to valet, checking into our property. And I firmly believe, and that could be some of my hotel degree coming in, but I firmly believe we make an impact on that front desk. Their pay isn't right on their paycheck, they're not happy. We can't support their cashiering function and their bank isn't quite prepared or some frustration like that. That's on us creating a bad customer experience. And that was the single biggest thing that I did. I did a small amount of restructuring, but honestly, it was actually just a little bit of downsizing, but nothing crazy. For me, it's about support and supporting the operations.
Did you have the visibility, though? Were the current systems, did they give you the visibility you needed to look into the business?
Yeah, so that was the interesting part. I was hired, and my start date was 2 days after they were supposed to go live with NetSuite. So they were already in the middle of implementation of NetSuite. And
were you familiar with NetSuite, or were you familiar with it? Was it a running start for you, I guess?
No. So the interesting thing about casinos, especially in my time frame when I was in Las Vegas, is we all used a software called Infinium. It's now owned by Infor. And it used to be Software 2000 in the 80s. And then still 2020, people are using it. And with that, everybody used it because then you can find talent, right? So everybody knew the same software. So coming up to NetSuite, it was a brand new install for me with that. And I did slow it down a little bit. We actually implemented in July just to make sure that we did all of the foundation as best we could, chart of accounts, understanding the simple things.
I just want to sort of highlight what you just shared. So if I understood correctly, there was an accounting system that's largely used by the casino industry, and all the accountants who work for one casino or another are familiar with it. And therefore, when you're making a hire decision, it was basically, and whether that technology became more advanced or was clunky, it's what we use. So there was sort of this attitude or mindset for a while because of the talent needs. And now, I guess, given the cloud era, other products became more accessible, and that was no longer necessarily a hurdle.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we did install software to ensure that we were able to hire talent that would know it coming in. Old green screen AS400 software. Jack, I was promoted to hotel accounting manager at the MGM Grand, again by my mentors, at the time that the Venetian opened, because the hotel accounting manager went over there. There was such a talent depletion at that time growing up in my young career that I had 19 hotel auditors, food, beverage, hotel, retail. Of that, she took 13 of them to the Venetian. Brand new accounting manager have to rehire. So you always looked for the talent that kind of knew the systems.
So with the new system in hand, and how's your visibility? Are you looking at the world a little differently? No more green screens or what have you?
Yeah, so we are fully NetSuite. Actually, we're all of Oracle. We use Oracle Opera, Oracle Symphony for our hotel and our food and beverage POSs that feeds directly into NetSuite now. And then we added on in November of 19, we implemented NetSuite planning and budgeting. So with that, which couldn't have been a better timing, with that, we have full visibility. We book journal entries daily. We're a daily revenue transactional organization. So some organizations have more of a weekly, monthly kind of transactions. Ours is day by day, minute by minute, looking at transactions.
And who gets to see that? Do you have like dashboards for, certain parts of the management team, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so from NetSuite, we're able to put out a daily operating report that goes to probably 20 of our front operators, assistant managers, whatnot. So they're able to see revenue from yesterday about 10 a.m. in the morning.
Speak to, your prior life where those numbers didn't show up for some time. And now what does it do? Does it help everyone stay focused? What do you think the organization's experiencing?
Yeah, great question. So the piece that I like about what we're doing, we push out revenue and certain KPIs, occupancy, covers in the restaurant, rounds of golf, plus we push out labor every day.
Huh.
So the manager is able to correlate their revenue and their labor every day. And these are actuals.
Is labor, is that churn or what would that be?
No, straight payroll. So how many hours people are working. Yeah, so straight payroll, specifically hourly, right? We do include salary, but obviously that's a given. That's kind of a fixed cost, where our variable cost in labor is pushed out every day, showing the amount of overtime and showing the amount of labor that was in every outlet, all the way down to our snack bar that has a couple of people that run the golf course. So we show all of that labor. The piece that I like about ours is, compared to some of the big casinos, you estimated so much. And we even estimated all the way down to EBITDA, but it was just a guess, right? If anyone could tell me what next month's utility bill is going to be at their house, then they would be amazing, as compared to trying to understand a whole big casino. So I always thought that was a little crazy. I love the fact we're very pinpointed here at Edgewood. We're showing direct labor, direct KPIs with the revenue and how that associates.
Curious if there was a particular KPI that was added, or there was some debate around whether we should put that on, and maybe you went ahead and did it, and you were surprised by how many executives were drawn to it, or what have you. Any one metric you kind of surprised you?
Yeah, the one that I always find interesting is how hotel people want to hang on to ADR, so the average daily rate for the hotel. It's such a big number and it's very important. I don't discredit that. But it has to be balanced with RevPAR, so revenue per available room. And then RevPAR, people want to add in all of the food and beverage, hotel, golf. And you could argue that some of our restaurant is definitely associated with the hotel, but it takes away from what that RevPAR is. As of yesterday, we still were having that same conversation. So with that, we tried to implement 3 different things. Obviously, the ADR was already there, what the RevPAR was and what it meant. And then we added what we call total RevPAR, adding in all of the revenue. Now, our golf course and our hotel are not a one-to-one relationship. They don't feed off of each other. Yes, we have golfers that stay at the hotel, and yes, we have hotel customers that play golf. But we cannot fill the course with 154 rooms. So the two don't have a very wide correlation. So when we add in golf revenue, it really inflates the RevPAR, and it doesn't necessarily mean as much as it
Let me ask about, and again, you made very clear to us that customer satisfaction is always top of mind for you. Wondering, is there a way to, and again, the net promoter score in other industries clearly is something people use as a sort of a non-financial metric. I'm wondering if you folks have your own sort of customer stat for satisfaction.
Yeah, so we use the guest service, all of the traditional guest services afterwards, right? So the surveys afterwards. We're definitely Forbes. We're very proud that we're a Forbes 4-star property. This is 2 years in a row. So we're very pleased that after 3 years of just operating, we're able to get to 4-star. 5-star is the next goal, of course. We believe we have the asset for it, so we can get there. But as far as other physical metrics that are it's all about guest service. And we use Revenate afterwards. And we also use all the star reports to try to see where we stand within our market. Very niche market, though.
I'm wondering if now that, you're enjoying all this visibility and you're talking daily about these numbers, whether there's another part of the organization that you've determined wasn't really looking at the numbers and needed to be, or maybe it doesn't have to be lower management, but maybe there was a part of management that you as a finance leader realized there's a certain number that we're burying that they need to pay attention to, perhaps. Maybe we can bring it up, make it more visible, or emphasize it a little differently. I don't know. I'm just trying to share different scenarios in terms of how the finance leader educates the organization by sharing that visibility.
Well, probably as you're talking about this, the one thing that's coming to mind is inventory, right? So we're a traditional property that we never built enough storage space, right? That never happens on a brand new build. There's never enough storage. We have 3 major restaurants, from fine dining to the 24-hour, and it's a really high level. And then we have what we call the 19th hole at the golf course, right? So it's more of a sports bar kind of golf. But we have no warehouse for food. So with that, we have warehouse for beverage, but it's not much bigger than the size of an office. And so with that, when I came in, the one thing that I really worked on in conjunction with NetSuite bringing it along is what is our inventories and what does it look like? So we're able to get our arms around that. And I have a great director of purchasing. He's amazing at what he does. So we're able to get our arms around the big ones, but wait, we have retail as well, and worked really hard with the retail guys to get our arms around that. Oh, wait, we have uniforms as well. We carry $100,000 worth of uniforms. So another inventory. So we just kept going down that line of inventory after inventory, trying to get to where we're maximizing our cash and not over, back to the old school. What was it, the 80s or 70s, just in time. And we're still using that today. And so we're trying to maximize that. And that's one thing we really dove into as I started.
So we always have what is rather a broad question. We call it a finance strategic moment question. And this might have happened back at MGM. This might have happened earlier in your career, another casino or resort that you were part of the team, where you had a moment of insight because of your lines of sight, because of a number, because of your finance background and lines of sight. You saw something and you pointed it out. Anything come to mind when we ask for a finance strategic moment?
Well, the one thing I was thinking about, Jack, is when I was at the tribal casino, we're pretty much a monopoly, maybe an oligopoly, because there's a handful of casinos around, and we have such large population around a California casino, right? And with that, we came up to that great recession of 2007, 2008. We were operating with slot machines that were a little bit behind the times technology-wise. And with that, they have now all of these great bonusing systems, and you have all of this feedback directly to you as the customer right on your slot machine. And I went to our president at the time and I said, if we do not implement these bonusing features, we will be behind the times and we will start to get beat in our own market. with that. And so with that, we went through a process and we implemented, I can't remember exactly, but it was probably $3 million worth of capital going into the Great Recession, right at the beginning of it, to develop these bonusing features that kept our customers engaged, kept the guest engaged with our club. So that was our slot club. That was a great implementation. I think it really moved us forward. We actually saw a slight dip, but it was very slight, and I think we helped that belly of the curve not be so deep.
Hey, it's Jack. I hope you're enjoying our discussion with CFO Aaron Hartwig. I have to say, with as many SaaS finance leaders that we speak to, that is software as a service, the discussion around customer engagement, what Aaron just shared with us, the $3 million capital resource allocation to the Slots Club is as worthy a customer engagement platform as any we have heard. I think you'd agree. We now return to our discussion with CFO Aaron Hartwig. We're going to jump to what we refer to as our mentoring round now. This is where we try to ask you a few quick questions intended to sort of inform and inspire future finance leaders. I want to know, when you first took on the role, if you could go back that first 30 days, that first 60 days, and again, the finance leadership role, when all that responsibility fell on you, if you could go back in time and just give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
The piece that I would tell, and I have told, I have a young director of P&A for me right now. I tell him all the time, stay up on technology, right? So for me, growing up in my career, technology at the time was Excel. And I had to stay up on Excel. And my Excel skills helped me get noticed and get those mentors that I referred to. It's not quite as detailed, just Excel anymore. Stay up on how to use SQL. Stay up on how to use NetSuite planning and budgeting. Stay up on how to use the forecasting tools that are given to you. You have to be on top of the technology that's given to us here in the finance world, whether it's hospitality or not. You have to, like, we implemented all of our AP on the optical readers. So all of our invoices come in through email, and they're automatically put into NetSuite planning and budget, or into NetSuite for us. Stay up on technology. The one piece in my career, as I elevated, yes, I was involved in more strategic discussions about the property and where capital should go and what's our next move. But the piece that fell off for me was I wasn't on technology. So stay up with technology, Excel, forecasting tools, report writing tools, etc.
Yeah, really interesting. In the cloud era, you hear that all the more, that, if you're thinking of changing jobs, take a look at the technologies that they're using today, because it could draw you back. Hey, so
did you happen to see that there's an Excel competition now on ESPN?
Oh, no kidding, really?
Yeah, and I was like, I would fail so miserably, where at one point I thought I was pretty good.
But really, on ESPN, are they all accountants? What are they? Are they
whizzes is what they were.
Yeah, definitely. We always like to ask our guests to reflect a little bit on the personal side for us. We're wondering if you have a personal habit or part of a daily routine that you're known for over time. It might be something someone outside of work, a family member, might point out to us. That's just Aaron. That's what he does. Anything come to mind when we ask for a personal habit or part of a daily routine?
I strive very hard. Now, my daughter might argue differently, but I strive very hard to have patience. And what I mean by that is not just, let things go or whatnot. Let your employees do what they would need to do. Understand what they need. Understand what they're going for, and have patience with that development and making sure. A lot of people talk about talent, and you need all this talent. What I want is great attitude and someone's working hard. And I can have a lot of patience in developing them. And that's the one thing I strive for.
That's great.
Is trying to be there with that.
I forgive me, I have to ask this question. When you go on vacation, where do you go?
Yeah, so that's hilarious. We went for the first time just 2 weeks ago. In fact, I delayed this a little bit because of we were in Hawaii for the first time.
Nice.
Every other time, it feels like it's some sort of family going to see mom and dad, weddings, etc.
Yeah. You visit family. That's when you live in Tahoe. Your vacation is leaving. Yeah. Okay. We like to end with asking for your priorities as a finance leader going forward the next 12 months. So just for the next 12 months, what are your priorities as CFO of Edgewood companies?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is become more efficient as an organization. So over the last since the pandemic, right, we have forecasted and forecasted and forecasted. And we did it for multiple reasons, trying to understand. I'm proud to say, Jack, that we paid all of our employees during both the pandemic. We paid them full amount, including tips. And we also paid them, as you might know, we had the fire that breached the basin last year. We actually were shut down, and we paid our employees during that time frame. We were able to do that because we implemented these forecasting tools and understanding our cash flow. So with our cash flow, we knew that we could take this risk prior to PPP, or we knew we had the ability in a fire evacuation to be able to pay our employees. It was a huge thing for us because then once we were ready to reopen, we didn't furlough anyone. We weren't rehiring. We had all of our employees. The evacuation was a little different because we had some people that had to be removed from the area. And so it was a little harder. But during the pandemic, we were able to have our employees come right back. So with that, we're continuing trying to strive to be more efficient with forecasting. I have a weekly forecasting meeting. What does 2022 look like at the end of the year? What if we do have smoke again? What if we do have a fire? Please not. But what if we do have a fire that breaches the basin again? And what does that look like for us? How can we protect ourselves in the time that we are developing? We are building huge 5-star villas. One is a 6-bedroom villa. We're putting a large amount of capital into new resources at the resort. What does that look like forecasting wise, and how are we protecting ourselves?
Aaron Hartwig, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Appreciate it.
Hello, listeners. Do us a favor. Be certain to subscribe to CFO Thought Leader on Apple Podcasts, or if you're an Android user, check us out on Spotify or Google Play. If you like the show, please recommend it to a friend.